While attending to the injuries of Lord Onping, his 5-year-old daughter suddenly burst in, pointing at me. Father, mother has been unconscious for most of the day. How could you still be consorting with a concubine? I turned to face the assembly of physicians in the room. Without thinking, I exclaimed, esteemed physicians, let us first attend to the lady of the house. Wait a moment, who is the concubine? Is it me? Am I truly being labeled as a concubine before this multitude? That would require a considerable amount of audacity. All present were rendered speechless by Xiao Lingling's words. Yet, despite my status as a physician, I am also the niece of Her Majesty the Empress and have been bestowed the title of princess at a tender age. Consequently, we exchanged only furtive glances, each eager to share this sensational revelation with our families. Could a mere 5-year-old child weave a tale of deceit? Xiao Yenying sighed deeply, massaging his temples, and addressed everyone. It is said that physician Qin possesses an ardent passion for medicine, dedicating herself day and night at the Imperial Hospital. Furthermore, she invariably attends to her duties alongside esteemed officials. This is but the fanciful utterance of a young girl. I implore you all not to take it to heart, lest we tarnish the reputation of the innocent. Yet the little girl cried, her face streaked with tears and snot. Father, do you truly wish to abandon mother and me? Mother is gravely ill and on the brink of death. I turned to the lady-in-waiting accompanying me, her brow furrowed in profound concern. Observing Xiao Yenying's expression, I noted the barely concealed gossip swirling among the dozen or so imperial physicians. He had no choice but to lead us all to the chamber to witness his ailing wife. On the bed lay Su Ningyi, enveloped in layers of embroidered quilts, her raven hair cascading over a jade pillow. Her complexion was pallid, and crimson liquid lingered at the corners of her mouth. Before the physicians could utter a word, Xiao Yenying inhaled sharply and bellowed, Su Ningyi, how long do you intend to create this ruckus? Get up at once. Xiao Lingling sobbed beside the bed. Mother, please do not forsake Lingling. I promise to be obedient. Mother, open your eyes and see. I have brought father back. Look at me, please. As she wept, her eyes shot daggers in my direction. I remained in shock, bewildered by the unfolding drama. In this moment of stupefaction, Xiao Yenying had already propped Su Ningyi up, deftly scraping a layer of white powder from her face. He produced a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the blood from her lips. Su Ningyi, cease this charade. The scent of rose juice is unmistakable. I can detect it. The physicians behind us murmured amongst themselves, noting the apparent absence of any metallic tang of blood. Moreover, once the powder was removed, her complexion appeared surprisingly healthy, indeed far more so than that of physician Qin. After days of laboring in the Imperial Hospital, poring over ancient medical texts, my own visage had not fared as well. Why then did the young lady of the Marquis' household speak so? The curious glances began to converge upon Xiao Lingling, whose face flushed crimson with embarrassment, unable to meet anyone's gaze. At that moment, Su Ningyi stirred slightly in Xiao Yenying's arms, her fingers twitching as she opened her eyes. Husband, why have you returned? What has happened to me? Tears cascaded down her cheeks as she spoke. Unable to endure this farce any longer, I declared, Madam, you appear gravely ill. Allow me to examine you. Upon hearing my words, Su Ningyi's tears flowed even more freely, her head shaking vigorously. No, I refuse your examination. Do not attempt to ensnare me. Enraged, I retorted, You may insult my medical skills, but you shall not tarnish my character. No, you shall not demean my craft either. Very well. Let us summon physician Sun, Li Zhang, and Zhong to thoroughly assess the madam, I replied with a cold smirk. These esteemed physicians held great repute in the Imperial Hospital. Surely they would not conspire against me.
Su Ningyi's tears abruptly ceased.
The physicians commenced their examinations, asking questions and checking pulses, leading to the conclusion that she was in remarkably good health. Xiao Yenying's lips twitched, his eyes weary. Su Ningyi, what are you attempting to achieve? Are you feigning illness to summon Lingling back? Have you not yet had your fill of this charade? Hearing this, Su Ningyi's brow furrowed, and her lips pursed as she pointed a finger at me. Is it not because of her? Why must it be this female physician to treat you when there are so many esteemed doctors at the hospital? Do not think I am unaware. You keep her as a concubine under the guise of seeking treatment. My emotions are difficult to articulate, though I possess beauty. My father is the current prime minister, and my aunt is the reigning empress. Raised within the palace, The emperor and empress regard me as their own. At the age of 7, I was granted the title of Princess of Changlu. What reason do I have to become someone's concubine? As for my visits to treat Xiao Yening, it is because my studies align with his affliction, and no other physician possesses my depth of knowledge on this ailment. Moreover, I am accompanied by a throng of physicians and ladies-in-waiting for documentation. Such baseless slander cannot be fabricated so easily. Xiao Yening pressed his hand to his forehead, clearly pained. I previously informed you that my condition has reached a critical stage. That is why I... Before he could finish, I interrupted, speaking earnestly. Madam, I am uncertain of your misunderstandings, but my attendance here is by the decree of His Majesty the Emperor and Her Majesty the Empress. I specialize in complex and obscure ailments. Thus, I was dispatched to assist. Su Ningyi's body slackened, collapsing into Xiao Yening's embrace, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Miss Qin, I beseech you, do not act thus. If you truly love each other, I am willing to withdraw, provided you allow me to remain in the Marquis' residence. I understand my humble standing. As long as I can gaze upon the Marquis from a distance, I would be content. I have washed the belly band you left behind during your last visit. May I return it to you, and will you permit me to stay? Her words fell like ice water into boiling oil, silencing the once vibrant household of the Marquis. My heart raced as I felt the weight of 1,000 scrutinizing eyes upon me. Su Ningyi rested her cheek against Xiao Yening's chest, casting a provocative glance in my direction. I was filled with the urge to upend her and reveal the depths of her folly. Had I not previously met her? What offense had I committed to warrant such a tarnishing of my reputation? Should I lose my honor without support, I would have no choice but to end my own life. The most favorable outcome would be a life of solitude, shadowed by regret. My countenance darkened, and I questioned icily. I have grown within the palace, where all my garments are sourced from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with records to confirm this. I share no intimacy with the Marquis. Each visit is accompanied by ladies-in-waiting for documentation and physicians in attendance. I am perplexed as to when I might have offended the madam, leading to such defamatory accusations. Is this your will, or the Marquis'? The audacity of the Anping Marquis' household is remarkable. To slander a medical officer, to speak ill of the imperial family, to spread falsehoods, what punishment should such actions merit? With these words, the surrounding ladies-in-waiting and physicians had already knelt down, and Xiao Yening forcibly brought Su Ningyi to her knees as well. Su Ningyi's face turned pale. Clearly taken aback by my boldness, her anxious gaze darting to Xiao Yening. Yet, he was already drenched in cold sweat, too preoccupied to tend to her distress. Repeatedly bowing his head, Princess, please temper your wrath. My wife did not intend such offense. Since giving birth, she has become infatuated with tales, often imagining herself as the characters within. It is my failing as a husband that has led to her reckless words, besmirching your honor. I am unworthy of forgiveness. But I implore you to show mercy upon us, considering our past connections. Little Xiao Lingling, frightened, joined the others in kneeling on the ground. Observing the once mighty Marquis of Anping in such a pitiful state, weeping and trembling, was a sight to behold. Beside me, Su Ningyi was equally terrified, her face ashen. The once pristine skin of her visage now matched the shade of the powder applied to it. Gradually, the fury within me began to subside. Xiao Yening, a man of exceptional military talent, had achieved numerous victories in battle. Although the current situation was peaceful, one could never be certain that his skills wouldn't be needed in the future. I could not simply dismiss him and Su Ningyi like this. With a resigned sigh, I thought to myself, no matter the circumstances, I must not tarnish another's reputation. What if I were merely an ordinary physician? Would I not be driven to self-destruction? In light of the Marquis' past contributions, I chose to forgive this transgression. I hoped the Marquis would manage his household well, ensuring that no malicious gossip would arise. As my anger waned, those around us also began to rise to their feet. Just as Xiao Yening was suppressing his rage, preparing to see us off, Su Ningyi suddenly stood up and yanked her weeping daughter Xiao Lingling from the corner. Lingling,
My dear child.
her voice was piercing, tinged with madness. You tell them. Did you not witness it with your own eyes that day? That belly band belongs to her, doesn't it? Speak up, quickly. Instantly, all eyes were fixated on the 5-year-old girl. Terrified by her mother's demeanor, Xiao Lingling trembled. Su Ningyi continued, I am not lying. My daughter saw it with her own eyes. Everything I say is true. I was astonished. Was Su Ningyi truly deranged? I had just articulated my position clearly, yet she still sought to cast aspersions upon me. Xiao Lingling, with teary eyes, finally spoke in a soft voice, Know that. That was something my mother asked Lu Mama to buy a few days ago, and she said not to tell father. Su Ningyi, gasping with rage, remained unrepentant, glaring at me with fury. It must be you. What have you promised Lingling to make her side with you, a vixen, instead of her own mother? The spectacle before us was dizzying. Just as I furrowed my brow, Xiao Yenying interjected. Come. My wife is gravely hysterical, speaking nonsense, and behaving outrageously. Take her back to her chambers. Under no circumstances are you to let her step out without my command. Lu Mama, who has aided and abetted, is to be expelled from the residence. The servants waiting outside promptly entered, escorting the babbling Su Ningyi from the room, while Xiao Lingling was carried away as well. The once lively chamber was now in disarray. Xiao Yenying bowed deeply to me, his demeanor unusually humble. Princess, today's humiliation is entirely my fault. My failure to govern the household has led to chaos within, disturbing your esteemed self and tarnishing your reputation. I am utterly at fault. The imperial physician and court ladies behind him, though they kept their heads bowed, had their ears perked up, listening intently. Observing the Marquis, who had already been worn thin by illness, now appearing even more fatigued, I felt no desire to prolong the conversation. I shook my head gently. Marquis, take care of yourself. With that, I left with the others. What I did not see was that behind us, Xiao Yenying had abandoned his respectful facade, gazing at our departing figures with a peculiar smirk. The following day, while I was immersed in studying ancient medical texts at the Imperial Medical Bureau, news arrived from the Queen's aunt, inviting me to join her for lunch. I patted my stiff body and, after freshening up, went to pay my respects to her, casually mentioning the turmoil in the Anping Marquis. Upon hearing this, the Queen's aunt set down her teacup, frowning. Yesterday, Aunt Chui came to discuss this matter with me. I had no idea that Madame Xiao had become so unwell. Through her words, I gleaned the backstory. It turned out that Su Ningyi and Xiao Yenying had been childhood friends, sharing an innocent bond, and had led a blissful married life, envied by many in the capital. However, when she gave birth to their daughter, Xiao Yenying was away fighting in the northern borders and had not returned for months. At that time, a plague swept through the capital, and shortly after she had completed her confinement, she learned of her father's death due to the illness, plunging her into daily sorrow. Subsequently, for reasons unknown, she became infatuated with romantic tales, leading to a descent into madness, often identifying herself with the tragic heroines within those stories. She began to believe that Xiao Yenying would disdain her as a mere wife of humble origins and viewed the maids in her household as adversaries, sending many away. This was common knowledge among various ladies and noblewomen. The heart of a healer, I mused, feeling a pang of sympathy. Childbirth is already a perilous endeavor, and with such blows, it is hardly surprising. I had encountered similar cases before, as many women experienced drastic emotional shifts post-delivery, though few exhibited the extent of Su Ningyi's madness. Alas, she had been confined, and it was unlikely that further disturbances would arise. The Queen's aunt observed my shaking head, smiling with satisfaction. Indeed, Chang Lu handled this matter splendidly, preserving the royal family's dignity while preventing excessive embarrassment. It is no wonder you grew up under my tutelage. Even without explicit lessons in social intricacies, your wisdom shines through. As I received her accolades, my face flushed with modesty, and I sent a maid to fetch the dishes. To avoid any potential conflict, I refrained from visiting the Anping Marquis again, opting instead to write down prescriptions and discuss cases with the physicians. I believed the situation had reached a resolution, allowing me to continue my studies in peace. However, that afternoon, Bai Ji burst in, her eyes red and full of fury. Princess. Outside, those people are spreading malicious rumors. I had been focused intently on a complex meridian diagram when I lifted my head, frowning slightly. What is it? Speak slowly. The sky isn't falling. Bai Ji's chest heaved with anger as she struggled to calm herself, her words spilling forth rapidly. Today, I went out as usual to the academy to see if there were any new ancient medical texts. I overheard a group of gossips in the streets. They claimed you were using your opportunity to treat the Onping Marquis to engage in flirtation. They said you drove the Marquis's wife to madness. That you are a femme fatale. Her anger escalated, her hairdo nearly coming undone. They even fabricated tales about a belly band. How dare they slander you? Unable to contain my rage, I tightened my grip on the book, a chill of fury rising from within. A woman's reputation is more precious than life itself. These rumors were vile, not only aimed at ruining my reputation but also to put me in peril. My voice turned icy. Do you know where this originated? Baiji cleared her throat. I inquired around. It seems the rumors first spread from a few maids in the Onping Marquis. The Marquis? That day. Apart from us few involved, only the imperial physician and the recording court lady were present. The maids were left waiting outside, no more than 3 or 5. What a well-behaved Onping Marquis, I scoffed. They just vowed to maintain strict discipline, yet now they are causing a stir throughout the city. Can such a large household not control the tongues of their servants? Baiji was on the verge of tears. Princess, what should we do? Perhaps we should seek the Queen's intervention. No, I replied firmly, cutting her off. To approach my aunt now would only play into the hands of those who wished to see me pressured into silence. They would relish the opportunity to see me use my position to suppress them, thereby solidifying the rumors. Such a cunning scheme. This uproar left me unable to act decisively against them while also hampering my ability to swiftly quell the gossip circulating in the streets. I began pacing the room, then abruptly halted. Prepare the carriage. We are going to Qingfeng Pavilion. Qingfeng Pavilion was the most bustling tea house in the capital, a melting pot of all walks of life, where news traveled swiftly. Baiji was taken aback. Qingfeng Pavilion? It is a den of chaos. Precisely because it is a den of chaos, I replied, my gaze turning steely. Since they wish to besmirch my name in the marketplace, I shall reclaim that name within the very same marketplace. The atmosphere in the Qingfeng Tower was vibrant with chatter, and my entrance went largely unnoticed. I requested a private room on the second floor facing the street. Just as I settled in, I overheard the storyteller downstairs weaving a tale of a devoted woman and her heartless lover, eliciting murmurs of sympathy from the audience. I ordered several signature delicacies and listened intently as he unfolded the cliched narrative with dramatic flair. By the time he concluded, I had nearly finished my meal. Baiji, kindly invite the storyteller to join me in a discussion, and please extend the courtesy, I instructed. Moments later, a storyteller with a goat-like beard entered. I lifted my teacup, casting a glance as Baiji presented a delicate purse. With a subtle flick of my wrist, the jade token at my waist flashed briefly. The storyteller's expression shifted. Esteemed guest. I set down my teacup and spoke with a serene tone. Though your tale is captivating, it pales in comparison to the true story I possess. I began slowly. There was once a general, renowned for his military exploits, whose wife succumbed to a postpartum illness, plagued by delusions and auditory hallucinations. The general, deeply devoted, changed the household staff multiple times in hopes of curing her. Yet, a female physician tasked with her treatment was misinterpreted as an enemy, leading to her unjust vilification. The city is abuzz with rumors, branding the physician as a seductress, unaware that she is merely a patient unable to distinguish between reality and illusion. The storyteller's eyes sparkled with intrigue. Might you be referring to? I smiled subtly. A story is but a story. There is no need for names. Yet in this world, some suffer without knowledge, while others exploit illness for their gain, and still, others stoke the flames of discord. If you could elucidate these complexities, revealing who the true lover is, who the patient, and who the wronged, would that not be a noble deed? The storyteller nodded vigorously, understanding my intent. Rest assured, esteemed guest, I shall convey this matter with utmost clarity. Such a heartfelt narrative will undoubtedly move all present. As I exited the tea house, I made my way directly to the palace in search of the 7th princess. Cousin, you finally arrived. The 7th princess seized my hand upon seeing me. I've heard all the scandalous gossip from outside. It infuriated me to the point of shattering several tea sets. I offered it a wry smile. You're aware of it? Not merely aware. The 7th princess gritted her teeth. This morning, I overheard 2 ignorant maidens gossiping, and I promptly dispatched them to the laundry department. Royal sister, this cannot be allowed to stand. I sighed. Rumors are like the wind. The more one tries to suppress them, the more fervently they spread. It would be wiser to adopt another approach. The princess's eyes brightened. Do you have a plan, royal sister? I nodded. This tale has already circulated. The wife of the Earl of Onping suffered from postpartum melancholy, leading to delusions characterized by visual and auditory hallucinations and unfounded accusations against others. The Imperial Hospital has already confirmed her condition. The Earl has remained steadfast, seeking out renowned physicians. The princess immediately grasped my intent. I understand. This will make them realize she is speaking madness. Within 3 days, the narrative within the capital shifted. In the tea house, the tale of the deeply affectionate general and his mad wife stirred the hearts of many. Privately, the noble women whispered among themselves, so the Earl of Onping's wife is gravely ill. No wonder she speaks such nonsense. The Earl is truly devoted. Others would have cast off their wives long ago. The most pitiable is the Princess Changle, who is unjustly slandered by a madwoman, yet still repays malice with kindness. Indeed, a few years prior, during an epidemic in the capital, it was Princess Changle who took the lead, tirelessly studying medicine and immersing herself among the afflicted to develop a remedy. Such is the benevolence of a healer. I wondered how the princess could possibly commit such acts. Exactly. The Earl of Onping is nearing 30, while the princess has only just celebrated her 18th birthday. He could almost be her father. So mind your words. I saw the Prime Minister's wife leave the residence today. We must watch our tongues. Baiji excitedly reported to me, Princess, no one believes those scandalous tales anymore. They say the spreaders of rumors are despicable, targeting a sick individual and maligning the benevolent princess. Yet, my expression remained grave. Why do you appear so glum, princess? Baiji queried, perplexed. I gazed out at the vibrant spring scenery, murmuring, the emergence of these rumors is too convenient, dispersing too swiftly, as if someone is pulling the strings. Are you implying that a general capable of commanding thousands would not control the tongues of his household? I scoffed. It is not a matter of inability, but rather a lack of desire to govern. Qingdai gasped softly. Could it be that the Earl of Onping himself? Prepare the medicine box and summon a few currently on duty physicians, I instructed, turning toward my writing desk. The Earl of Onping's household is far more intricate than I had anticipated. I must investigate further. Princess, are you still going? Baiji hesitated, her face a portrait of disapproval. That household is a den of strife. Why do you willingly leap into the fire? I adjusted my sleeves, my tone calm, yet resolute. Precisely because it is a fire pit, I must discern who is stoking the flames. Prepare the carriage. Upon my return to the Earl of Onping's residence, I was personally greeted by Xiao Yanqing, whose demeanor bore the same unmistakable weariness and remorse. Your Highness, I regret not being able to extend a proper welcome due to my wife's condition. She is, unfortunately, unable to receive guests. I regarded him with a slight smile, though it did not reach my eyes. My lord, I am not merely a guest. I am a physician. It is imperative that I examine the lady's unstable condition. I have nearly resolved the issues regarding your ailment. Please trust in my expertise and that of my fellow physicians. At this point, I suppressed my smile, adopting a serious countenance. Is there anything within this household that I am not permitted to observe? I fixed my gaze upon him, scrutinizing every subtle shift in his expression. A fleeting shadow passed over Xiao Yanqing's features, almost imperceptibly, before he stepped aside. Your Highness, you exaggerate. However, should my wife cause any further offense? I interrupted him, my tone unfazed. Rest assured, my lord, I will exercise discretion. When I encountered Su Ningyi again, she appeared even more haggard than before, resembling a wilting orchid bereft of water. Curled upon the soft couch by the window, she stared vacantly outside, murmuring, he will return. The tales always say he will regret it. Xiao Yanqing accompanied me, leading a group of physicians as we approached her. I settled gently onto the embroidered stool in front of her, speaking softly, Madam, I have come to take your pulse. Startled, she recoiled like a frightened rabbit, her eyes wide with terror. Stay away. You seductress. You seek to steal my husband. You all wish to harm me. Xiao Yanqing stepped forward, his voice firm. Enough. Have you not yet awakened from this delusion? If you continue this way, we shall separate. Su Ningyi slumped at his words, grasping his trousers. No, you cannot do this. After a few pleas, she glared at me with fury. You are truly skilled, forcing me into a separation so swiftly. Then she knelt before me, tearfully imploring, I beg you, please do not take Yanqing from me. As I observed the unfolding drama, I remained silent, casting a glance at Baiji. She promptly ushered Xiao Yanqing out, stating, My lord, the princess and the physicians must attend to the lady. We kindly ask you to step aside. Xiao Yanqing's clenched fists relaxed as he obediently exited the courtyard. On the ground, Su Ningyi remained in her frenzy. I forced her upright and settled her onto the couch. Gradually, as she met my calm gaze, her agitation subsided. The room fell silent, leaving only myself and the few physicians standing attentively, alongside Su Ningyi, who wept softly with a vacant stare. I resumed my seat on the embroidered stool beside her couch, refraining from immediate examination, instead gesturing to the physicians behind me. Please wait outside and keep a record of the medicinal ingredients. Do not enter without my instruction. The medical women filed out in succession, gently closing the door behind them. The room fell into an even deeper silence, save for Su Ningyi's muffled sobs. I remained silent, merely reaching for the cooling tea on the small table beside me, pouring a cup and extending it towards her. She stared vacantly at the cup, not accepting it. Rest assured, it is not poison, I remarked with a light chuckle. If I truly wish to harm you, there are myriad ways to do so, without needing to poison you while everyone is aware of our solitary interaction. After a moment of hesitation, she finally accepted the cup with trembling hands and took small sips. The tea seemed to ease her taut nerves slightly. I gazed at her, my voice softening. Do you feel somewhat better? Madam Xiao, shall we converse?
Su Ningyi's emotions,
which had just begun to stabilize, surged once more. She raised her tear-filled eyes to scrutinize me with suspicion, her tone hysterical. What is there to discuss? Shall we talk about how you have taken my husband? With that, she burst into another fit of tears. I could hardly contain my incredulity. Sister Su, permit me to address you as such. Can we momentarily set aside the melodrama of stolen husbands? Look closely at me. I gestured to my own face. I have only just turned 18, in the prime of youth, blooming in beauty, hailing from a distinguished family, and favored by both the emperor and empress. I am a rising star in the Imperial Medical Academy. What folly would possess me to pursue a man nearing 30, with a child and a legitimate wife? Su Ningyi was momentarily rendered speechless by my blunt words, her mouth opening and closing without formulating a response. The madness in her eyes gradually faded, replaced by a flicker of confusion. I seized the opportunity, leaning slightly forward, lowering my voice to imbue my tone with genuine concern. Have you never found it peculiar? These monotonous tales surrounding you, always whispering in your ear that the Marquis will surely turn his heart away. And after your episodes of distress, has Xiao Yanqing truly sought a way to cure you, apart from confining you and displaying his supposed deep affection and helplessness to outsiders? I have inquired widely. He has not summoned any reputable physicians skilled in this matter, has he? Or does he perhaps prefer you remain in your state of illness?
Su Ningyi's pupils constricted sharply,
her hands gripping the teacup trembling violently, splashing tea onto her sleeves. It was as if she had been struck by a bolt of lightning, her lips quivering as she murmured, And no, he loves me. Loves you? I let out a soft scoff, tinged with pity. If he truly loved you, would he stand by as you drown in delusions without offering a hand? Would he exploit your affliction to bolster his own reputation of profound yet fleeting devotion? Your madness and Xiao Yanqing's professed love have long become gossip among the circles of the nobility. Sister Su, you are a woman of intellect, raised in a scholarly family. Some truths, if contemplated, might prove far more distressing than my words. She abruptly lifted her gaze to meet mine, her expression a complex tapestry of fear, struggle, and a hint of long-lost clarity. Why are you telling me this? Her voice was hoarse. I met her gaze with calm resolve, because I can no longer bear to witness this. I detest being used as a pawn, and even more so, I loathe seeing someone suffer without awareness. As a healer, it is my instinct to cure and rescue. As a woman, I cannot stand by and watch you, another woman, endure such torment and deception. I stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the isolated courtyard scenery. Though it was a season of blossoming flowers, the flora in Su Ningyi's garden appeared desolate, with only a few scattered blooms. Of course, You may continue to immerse yourself in your fictional world, playing the role of the woeful heroine. But I must inform you, if you persist in this manner, you will ultimately be left with nothing but bones. And what of your Lingling? With a mother so afflicted by hysteria, what will become of her? At the mention of her daughter, Su Ningyi trembled violently, tears spilling forth once more. Yet this time, it was not a cacophony of madness, but rather a silent anguish. I returned to stand before her, my tone grave. Now, the choice lies with you. Will you continue to feign madness, dwelling within the nightmare woven by others, or will you trust me once, escape this mire, and at the very least, for Lingling's sake, choose to live with clarity? I extended my hand, not to take her pulse, but as an invitation. Su Ningyi gazed at my hand, then lifted her eyes to meet my clear and resolute gaze, struggling for a long, drawn-out moment. Finally, she trembled, slowly placing her hand in my palm, her voice a mere whisper, yet laced with determination. What should I do? I gently clasped her hand, feeling its icy chill. A sigh of relief escaped my lips, though my expression remained composed, as I turned to Bai Ji and nodded. Bai Ji, waiting nearby, retrieved a small warmed bowl from the medicine chest and offered it to me. First, drink this calming concoction. Your spirit has been excessively strained, and if you do not stabilize your body, it will surely collapse. Su Ningyi looked at me, her eyes still clouded with lingering panic and doubt. Her hands trembled as she accepted the medicinal bowl, grimacing as she consumed the bitter brew. I raised an eyebrow as I observed her facial contortions from the bitterness of the medicine. This thick concoction was justly recompensing her for the earlier scene she had caused in public. Once she finished, I could not resist reaching into the medicine chest for 2 pieces of candied fruit, gesturing for Bai Ji to keep watch outside. Sister Su, think carefully about who first introduced you to those tales. Su Ningyi paused her chewing, straining to recall, her brow furrowing tightly. It seems to have been Mr. Zhou. At that time, I had just birthed Lingling and learned I would struggle to conceive again. Not long after, my father. She trailed off, the weight of memories pressing down upon her. He said I was in a melancholic state and suggested I read some miscellaneous literature to lighten my spirits. Later, it was that girl, Chuntao. She always told me how the heroines in those tales were abandoned. Her voice dwindled, her complexion paling, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Those heroines, like me, came from declining maternal lines and bore no sons. I interrupted her painful recollection, observing her trembling form. Is that Chuntao still serving you? She shook her head. A couple of months ago, she accidentally broke my husband's beloved inkstone and was sold away from the household. A cold smile curled in my heart. Xiao Yanqing was indeed efficient in his dealings. No matter, though she is gone, her traces remain. Just remember, from this day forth, anything unusual you observe or hear regarding Xiao Yanqing and those around him, etch it into your memory. Before my next visit, regardless of how he provokes you, or what confidants he sends to relay messages, do not react as you did before. I gazed into her bewildered eyes, sighing as I added, feign increasing frailty, lacking the strength to speak, and sleep throughout the day. Should he invite other physicians, simply close your eyes and lie still. Can you manage that? Su Ningyi nodded heavily. I can. I rose to my feet. I will arrange for reliable individuals to care for you, and will instruct the Imperial Medical Academy to prepare tonics, creating the appearance of your serious condition. Rest assured, I shall handle matters outside. As I approached the door, my hand resting on the frame, I paused for a moment without turning back, softly saying, Sister Su, for Lingling's sake, you must persevere. With that, I opened the door, my expression returning to its usual tranquility. Bai Ji and the medical women awaited outside, while Xiao Yanqing stood a short distance away in the corridor, his gaze heavy upon us. I nodded slightly to him, my tone remaining composed. Marquis, the lady is overly troubled, her vitality depleted, and requires extended periods of quietude, avoiding further agitation. I have prescribed calming and restorative remedies, which will be adjusted according to her condition. Unless absolutely necessary, it is best to minimize disturbances to her. Xiao Yanqing advanced a few steps, his gaze seemingly penetrating, as if searching for something on my face. I appreciate the concern of the esteemed princess. I wonder about my wife. His unfinished words hung in the air, while I displayed just the right amount of fatigue and helplessness on my face. Madame's emotions have stabilized somewhat, yet her mind remains weary. She has already fallen asleep. My lord may visit her, but please do not disturb her further. I stepped aside, gesturing for him to proceed. He scrutinized me for a moment, but ultimately refrained from entering, only bowing his hands in respect. The princess possesses remarkable medical skills. Yenying naturally has complete trust in her. I refrained from saying more, leading Baiji and the physicians away. Once outside the gates of the Marquis residence and seated in the carriage, I finally permitted myself to lean against the carriage wall and let out a long sigh. Baiji leaned closer, whispering, "Princess, how is it? What about the Marquis lady?" I closed my eyes, massaging my temples, yet a barely perceptible smile tugged at my lips. The truth is drawing near. It now depends on who will falter first. After a few days of relative tranquility, the seventh princess continued her customary visits for our gatherings. As soon as I set out her favorite rose pastries, I noticed her suspiciously bright eyes as she leaned in, half concealing her face with a fan. "Cousin," she drawled, winking at me, "you spend all your time with those apothecaries and silver needles. I have a piece of news that just surfaced today, and hardly anyone knows about it." I leisurely sipped my tea, too lazy to lift my eyelids. "Which noble's grapevine has collapsed this time, to make you so excited?" She snapped her fan shut and leaned closer, her tone brimming with excitement. "It's the Onping Marquis estate. That Suningi is truly losing her mind. I've heard she's suspicious that Xiao Yenying is seeking you, and she went so far as to drug her own daughter, causing the child to suffer from high fever, all to compel the Onping Marquis to return home to see her." I spewed my tea in shock. Cough, cough. Baiji quickly patted my back. As I coughed and waved my hand, my mind felt as if it had been struck by a storyteller's gavel, buzzing with confusion. What on earth is happening? The subordinates have reported that Suningi has been feigning unconsciousness quite convincingly. How could she administer any poison? Xiao Yenying, oh Xiao Yenying, you truly are a character. To substantiate Suningi's madness, you would even use your own daughter as a pawn? Seeing my startled reaction, the seventh princess mistakenly assumed I was upset and hurried to comfort me. "Cousin, do not let such a person infuriate you. Who doesn't know she is hysterical and spouts nonsense? Such a venomous woman is utterly unworthy of being a mother." Once I regained my composure, I picked up a handkerchief to wipe my mouth, striving to adopt an expression that blended shock, helplessness, and a hint of a physician's parental concern, letting out a long sigh. Alas, Madame Sue's condition has truly worsened. It's the poor child Lingling who suffers. Oh no, that was almost a slip. The seventh princess eyed me skeptically, her almond-shaped eyes narrowing as she leaned in to poke my arm. "Cousin, what were you about to say? Sue's sister? When did you become so familiar with that Suningi, calling her sister? Disaster. I've truly revealed too much." Seeing me maintain a straight face, the seventh princess dramatically clutched her heart and leaned back, embodying a jilted woman's lament. "Heavens! Cousin, wasn't I your best sister? You actually acknowledged another sister and kept it from me. How heart-wrenching." She pretended to cry, while sneaking glances at me through her fingers. This exaggerated performance almost made me break character. I quickly covered my mouth with my sleeve to stifle my laughter, deliberately adopting a stern expression. "What nonsense!
Sit properly.
You hardly resembles a princess." She promptly set aside her hands and lunged forward, grabbing my arm and shaking it. "Cousin, did you discover something when you treated her last time? I sensed something was off since you returned from the Marquis estate." Observing her relentless determination to get to the bottom of things, I sighed and lowered my voice. "My dear sister, keep your voice down. This matter is likely not as simple as it seems. I suspect Suningi." I barely finished my sentence when the seventh princess's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I knew it. Does it have something to do with Xiao Yenying?" "That's how it's depicted in the stories. A heartless man scheming against his wife." "Cousin, are you secretly investigating, like the legendary detective Direnjia?" Watching her flail her sleeves as she imagined herself as a heroic sleuth, I couldn't help but chuckle. "It's not that dramatic, it's just—" The seventh princess interrupted me, clinging to my arm and starting to whine. "Cousin, you must take me with you. It's too dangerous for you to venture alone into that den of dragons and tigers. I can help cover for you and keep watch. I'm quite clever." She pounded her chest in assurance, then switched to a pitiful expression. "If you don't take me, I'll tell Mother that you plan to go off on an adventure alone, and she'll confine you to the Thai hospital to copy texts. Her combination of coaxing and threats left me at a loss. Seeing her eyes filled with anticipation and righteous indignation, I relented. I will take you, but you must listen to me completely. No acting on your own, no speaking out of turn, and especially no revealing our suspicions about Xiao Yenying, understood? Understood. The seventh princess's face instantly brightened, her smile reminiscent of a mischievous cat that had successfully stolen a treat. She sprang up to adjust her garments. I promise to behave. It will be as if we are simply checking on a subject's family. Baiji, quickly fetch a medical kit for me. No, a diagnostic box. I shall assist my cousin as her medical aid. The carriage wheels rattled as we made our way to the Anping Marquis estate. The seventh princess sat across from me, cradling a small purple sandalwood medical box that had somehow surfaced, eagerly glancing out the window and then leaning closer to whisper, "Cousin, what should I do when we arrive? Should I pretend to be dizzy to attract their attention?" I helplessly pressed her back into her seat. "My dear sister, your sole task today is to act as a concerned noblewoman for the subject's family." I emphasized, no talk of heartless men, stories, and absolutely do not call me Renjia. The seventh princess pouted but nodded obediently. All right, I promise to just watch the show and not disrupt it. Upon re-entering the Marquis estate, the expressions of the servants were even more vivid than before. It was one thing for the princess of Chanlu to come alone, but how could the whimsically spirited seventh princess also be present? Was there some hidden treasure within this residence? Xiao Yenying promptly approached upon hearing the news, and upon seeing me alongside the seventh princess, a flicker of astonishment and a barely perceptible gloom crossed his face. Yet he quickly composed himself, stepping forward to pay his respects. I pay my respects to the seventh princess and the princess of Chanlu. I was unaware of your esteemed visit and beg your pardon for not welcoming you properly. The seventh princess, maintaining her regal demeanor, waved her hand assertively. The Anping Marquis need not bow. I heard in the palace that your esteemed daughter is unwell. I was concerned and specifically came to inquire about her condition. Her words flowed seamlessly, exuding an air of benevolence and concern. Xiao Yenying's face immediately filled with sorrow and guilt. I appreciate the princess's concern. My daughter is not in grave danger. Alas, it is all due to my failings as a head of the household. I felt a cold laugh bubbling within me. Yet I maintained a facade of concern as I inquired, "Oh, if I understand correctly, is this once again due to the lady's actions? Are there any witnesses or evidence? What specific symptoms does she exhibit?" Xiao Yenying spoke with unwavering certainty. Only my wife had contact with Lingling's food that day. Who else could it be? Upon finishing, he bore an expression of deep resentment. As you know, my wife is not in her right mind. She is capable of anything. If it were not for our past affections, I would truly wish. The unspoken words were clear to us all. He was openly indicating his desire to divorce her. The seventh princess stared wide-eyed at the unfolding scene, and I discreetly pressed down her eager hands. In the warm chamber, Xiao Lingling appeared listless, resembling a wilted cabbage under the sun. I placed my fingertips upon her wrist. The pulse was rapid and shallow, an acute fever. However, upon closer examination, a sense of unease began to surface. I raised my hand decisively, my tone brooking no argument. "Fetch all the cups and plates that the young lady has used today, along with any remaining ingredients from the kitchen." Turning to Baiji, I instructed, "Summon the esteemed physician Sun and Li, who specialize in pediatrics, for an urgent consultation. Inform them that there is a riddle to unravel." Xiao Yenying's expression shifted subtly as she stepped forward, attempting to intervene. "Your Highness, is it truly necessary to make such a grand show? It is merely a minor ailment affecting a child, and involving both physicians is unsettling. Ultimately, this is a matter concerning the Marquis' household." I could hardly be bothered to raise an eyebrow, cutting her off with a wave of my hand. A household matter? If there is a malicious intent to harm the heir of the Marquis, can it still be deemed a mere household affair? With the princess as witness, this matter must be investigated thoroughly. The seventh princess, her presence commanding, proclaimed, "Today, I shall play the role of a fair judge and see who among them has the heart to harm such a young child." Xiao Yenying found herself momentarily speechless, caught off guard by our united front, and could only stand sullenly by. Soon after, several dishes were brought forth. I examined them one by one until my gaze settled on half a bowl of almond tofu. With a silver needle, I conducted a series of tests with practiced ease, exchanging a knowing glance with the two physicians who had hurriedly arrived. Throughout the process, the warm chamber was enveloped in an eerie silence. With a sharp clap, I tossed the silver needle onto the tray, the sound resonating clearly. Lifting the bowl of almond tofu, I directed my gaze, keen as a scalpel, toward Xiao Yanning. This almond tofu contains a significant quantity of ephedra and gypsum powder. Ephedra induces sweating, while gypsum generates heat. To administer such lethal substances against a 5-year-old child is clearly an attempt to take the child's life. I pressed on, my voice rising in intensity. The Marquis insinuates that it was the deranged actions of his wife. I would like to inquire, how could a madwoman so accurately gauge the potency of these drugs, calculate the dosage, and time her poisoning with such precision? Is it possible that in her madness, she also mastered the art of pharmacology? Xiao Yanying's complexion turned ashen, her lips trembling, rendered speechless. I raised the porcelain bowl, my voice echoing through the chamber. This is evidently a premeditated act of sabotage, not only aimed at harming the child but also to frame a woman in a state of delirium. Such malice deserves the harshest of retributions. The 7th princess, her face flushed with indignation, pointed an accusatory finger at Xiao Yanning. You, Onping Marquis, how dare you allow such harm to befall your own blood, while scheming against your own wife? I shall report this to my father and seek justice on your behalf. Under our relentless questioning, Xiao Yanning faltered, finally succumbing to rage and speaking without thought. Why must the princess feign innocence? Had it not been for your repeated visits to the estate, sowing seeds of doubt in my wife's mind, none of this would have transpired. I found his shameless retort both infuriating and amusing. According to your logic, when the riverbank collapses, we should not blame the quality of the construction, but rather the volume of the water. I shall formally request that all colleagues of the Imperial Medical Institute cease their visits to your Onping Marquis household, lest we, the harbingers of misfortune, offend your delicate sensibilities. Xiao Yanning suddenly regained his senses, realizing the foolishness of his words, and fell to his knees in desperation. Your Highness, please temper your wrath. It is I who has erred. I was too concerned for my wife, and in my worry, I have spoken thoughtlessly. I beg for your forgiveness. It is my failure in managing my household and my laxity in oversight that has allowed a villain to exploit this situation and cause such calamity. I deserve the gravest punishment. I restrained the indignant 7th princess, fixing a cold gaze upon the kneeling Xiao Yanning. If the Marquis claims such, then where is this villain? Who dares commit such a grievous error, deserving of the harshest punishment? Cold sweat beaded on Xiao Yanying's forehead as he prostrated himself on the ground. It is my aid, Mr. Zhou. I was investigating my wife's hysteria, and I have just uncovered troubling connections to Mr. Zhou. The 7th princess and I exchanged incredulous glances, both recognizing the glaring inconsistencies in his explanation. Seizing the moment, the 7th princess continued, since the Marquis has named the true culprit, let it be so. Bring forth Mr. Zhou and escort him directly to the capital's magistrate. I wish to see what audacity he possesses to create such turmoil within the Marquis' estate. With a hint of a smile, I added, the lady has suffered an unjust slander, and her condition requires tranquility for recovery. Henceforth, I shall assign 2 female physicians and guards from the princess's estate to oversee her quarters. Marquis, you have no objections, I trust? While the magistrate's capabilities are beyond reproach, Sister Su remains isolated within the Marquis' domain. There is a risk that Xiao Yanning might allow her to perish, leaving no evidence behind. Thus, it is imperative that I ensure her protection. Xiao Yanying's expression darkened at my words, incredulity flashing in his eyes. Yet he was forced to suppress his fury in the face of our assembled entourage. I have no objections. I defer to the arrangements of the princess. Before long, my appointed guards and the princess's retinue had taken control of Su Ningyi's courtyard. Xiao Yanning, his face ashen, could only watch helplessly as events unfolded. As we departed the Marquis' residence, the 7th princess remained aggrieved. Cousin, you cannot let this end so simply. That would be far too lenient. I cast her a sidelong glance, a knowing smile gracing my lips. Why the haste? Let us first secure Sister Su from the wolf's den.
Besides,
Do you not trust the magistrate's investigative prowess? Perhaps he will uncover some unexpected revelations. The seventh princess paused, then her expression shifted to one of realization, joining me in a conspiratorial grin. If there were a trending topic in the capital, it would undoubtedly be the scandal surrounding Onping Marquis' estate. That Mr. Zhou, who had been thrown under the bus, was nothing but a silver-tongued trickster, lacking any semblance of loyalty. Under the magistrate's enthusiastic interrogation, he not only confessed to drugging Ling Ling and using literature to manipulate Su Ning-yi but also unveiled a shocking scandal. The Onping Marquis, desiring both reputation and progeny, found his wife's family politically diminished and her chances of bearing children bleak. Fearing a direct divorce would tarnish his once lauded vow of lifelong companionship, he concocted an elaborate play, portraying a tale of a madwoman who tormented him while he remained steadfast in his affections. To further solidify the narrative of his wife's madness, he even targeted me as his scapegoat. Should I be provoked, Su Ning-yi would be swiftly discarded. Conversely, if I chose to overlook the transgressions, he could tarnish Su Ning-yi's reputation throughout the streets. In either scenario, he would find a convenient justification to dismiss his wife and pursue a higher-born lady capable of bearing him an heir. As news of this scandal spread, the citizens of the capital found themselves appalled. How could such a shameless individual exist? In the Golden Luan Hall, the emperor surveyed the mountain of impeachment documents, his expression darker than the bottom of a pot. Having witnessed countless storms, he had never encountered such intricate domestic scheming, nor seen a husband so ruthlessly betray his wife and biological daughter. Xiao Yanning. The emperor's voice was frigid. You truly are a commendable general and marquis. To scheme against your wife, harm your own blood, embezzle military funds, and form cliques for personal gain. With such a rich tapestry of experiences, perhaps you should consider penning an autobiography? Kneeling before him, Xiao Yanning trembled like a leaf in autumn's gusts. When the final verdict was rendered, it struck with precision. Xiao Yanning, having lost all virtue, your crimes are unforgivable. Nevertheless, considering your past military contributions, I shall spare your life. Henceforth, you are stripped of your title as Onping Marquis, reduced to a third-grade Xiangwu baron, and half of your estate shall be confiscated. Your daughter, Xiao Ling, clever and charming, is hereby granted the title of county princess, inheriting the barony. As for you, Xiao Yanning, you are to be exiled to Ningguta, with no decree allowing your return to the capital for eternity. This pronouncement meant a demotion in title, a forfeiture of half your wealth, the loss of your beloved son's inheritance, with your future resting upon your daughter. As for you, off to the northern wilderness to survive on frozen potatoes. Meanwhile, Su Ning-yi received special favor from the emperor and empress, who cleared her name, acknowledging her long-standing mental torment, and granted her a divorce. However, her past actions had indeed caused distress to the likes of the princess of Chonglo, tarnishing her reputation. Punished to atone for her past transgressions, she was tasked with assisting the princess in the noble art of healing, thereby redeeming herself. A year later, the first clinic under the Royal Medical Bureau, dedicated solely to treating women, was officially inaugurated. While I held the title of its head, the true management of daily operations, the coordination of personnel, and the oversight of accounts were entrusted to the astute female official, Su Ning-yi. With her meticulous mind and equitable disposition, she maintained the clinic in impeccable order, leaving no trace of her previous connection to the deranged lady of Onping from a year prior. The seventh princess became a frequent visitor to the clinic, ostensibly to oversee operations, yet in truth, she sought to gather gossip and indulge in the medicinal delicacies crafted by Sister Su and myself. One sunny afternoon, as we sorted herbs in the clinic's rear courtyard, Ling Ling diligently attempted to learn the art of identification beside us. Her complexion had improved significantly, and her eyes sparkled with the innocent vitality of youth. Suddenly, the seventh princess rushed in, guzzling the chilled tea from the stone table, then leaned in conspiratorially towards us. Sisters, I bring the latest news. Word from Ningguta has arrived, regarding our former Marquis of Xiangwu. Alas, he is said to be suffering from the harsh climate, with old wounds resurfacing. It seems he may not survive this winter. Exchanging glances with Sister Su, I noted her calm demeanor. She merely adjusted the abacus beads with a steady hand. Oh, is that so? Her tone was as tranquil as one remarking on the pleasantness of the day. Without pausing in her task of documenting herbal names, she looked up, smiling gently in the sunlight, her gaze clear and composed. She effortlessly handed me a sprig of astragalus, naturally inquiring, "Chanla, do you find this batch of herbs satisfactory?" Taking the sprig and examining it closely, I nodded with a smile. "The quality is exceptional, Sister Sue. You have become the cornerstone of our clinic." She beamed at my words, then turned to watch Lingling, who excitedly raised a piece of licorice for her nurse to see. Her expression tender and fulfilled. The seventh princess glanced between Su Ningyi and me, scratched her head in bemusement, and joined us in laughter, popping a piece of rose pastry into her mouth. All right, I admit I may have spoken out of turn. Sister Ningyi's treats are indeed irresistible. From a distance, Lingling's melodious laughter rang out as she correctly identified another herb. We exchanged knowing smiles. The tumultuous past of torment, madness, and intrigue had faded into memory. Within the fragrant confines of the clinic, the scent of herbs enveloped us, invigorating our spirits. In this fragrant sanctuary, we discovered a life more expansive and resilient than mere romance or domestic strife. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.